Hello and welcome back to CEO.CA's Inside the Boardroom. My name is James Pettam. Today, I am excited to be joined by Max Sally, Director and Vice President of Corporate Development at Monumental Energy. Max, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's an exciting day for us as we finally closed our first acquisition into oil and gas.
Fantastic. And we're going to get into that acquisition in just a moment, but maybe for viewers who aren't familiar with Monumental, can you give us the 30-second elevator pitch? What are the key facts people need to know about the company?
So Monumental Energy has a large lithium salar, big package in Chile. It's been a long process. During that process, trying to move that asset forward with the community and with the government, which we're finally getting into the good discussions now. We had excess capital. We invested in a company called New Zealand Energy Corp, which we're one of their largest shareholders of, which is currently drilling a gas well in New Zealand. And kind of coming naturally to us, we wanted to get into oil and gas ourselves. This has been a fantastic asset for many, many years, and now it's getting a second coming. And so I think Monumental going into 2025 will be able to deliver shareholders significant value through this royalty agreement and through other opportunities in oil and gas. And hopefully, if the lithium price comes back, be able to move that salar forward also in 2025. And so I think, in terms of where we are now with the cash we have and the share price, it's a tremendous value for an entrance.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot for that overview. Really interesting dual approach here. I want to talk about, obviously, today's news. 25% royalty on 2 restarting oil wells from New Zealand Energy. Walk us through, how did that deal come about? What does it mean for your shareholders? And maybe what's some of the financial breakdown?
Yeah, so New Zealand Energy Corp has a number of assets. They're currently focused on drilling their Tariki 5 gas well. They've pre-sold a lot of that gas to a local company. Would kind of be like your Fortis Energy here in BC. There's been such a shortage of gas investment in New Zealand over the last 10 years that the price of gas is almost $25 Canadian an MCF, where here you're paying under $3. And so that is obviously compelled New Zealand to drill this gas well. The market needs it. They had a lot of oil and gas exposure as well, or oil exposure, and a few shut-in wells. And so the transaction we did is we're going to restart a couple of wells that produce nearly 1 million barrels of oil near Brent crude pricing, so 85 USD. And one thing to note is all your input costs are in New Zealand. So it's tremendous on your balance sheet when the revenue comes. And so a 25% royalty means no risk to us. It's like a streaming deal. We'll fund the workovers up to 800 grand New Zealand. It will probably be less. That's about 700-ish Canadian. So we're getting a good exchange rate. And these wells should only take a few weeks to come online. That oil will then be trucked right to the Waihapa production facility, only 3 kilometers away. And it's pretty much as de-risked as you can get. Will these wells produce massive amounts of oil for years? That is a question. It's a nice entry point for Monumental. And now that we have our foot in the door with New Zealand Energy, that opens up a lot more oil opportunities with them in the future for 2025.
Yeah, really interesting deal there. I guess you mentioned it would only take a few weeks to restart operations. In terms of starting to see revenue come in from this royalty agreement, do you have a sense of what the timelines are like there?
Yeah, so we'll get paid quarterly on the revenue. We should be starting with workovers in January. Again, it will only take about 3 weeks to get started. And then all the oil goes right to the Waihapa production facility. And at the end of the quarter, we'll get our check. And so, I would say flush production would be anywhere from 250 to 300 barrels a day. That will come off. We'll get paid 75% of our money back that we put in, and then go into a 25-75% agreement with them. And again, the nice thing about the royalty is all decommissioning costs for them are under New Zealand. So this is a cash royalty for us for as long as they produce. And if there are any type of maintenance going forward, that's not on us, that's on New Zealand. But it opens the door. It will generate a bit of revenue, but that will allow us then to build our relationship with them and do other things in oil with them, specifically oil.
Great. And you mentioned New Zealand was experiencing significantly higher local gas prices, and that it had been somewhat underdeveloped in the last few years. I guess, what's your investment thesis for looking at oil and gas specifically in New Zealand as opposed to in some of the other jurisdictions you might have previously operated in?
So New Zealand's a very niche market. I remember 10 years ago when oil prices came off significantly. The government at the time in New Zealand said we're not going to allow any more onshore oil and gas production. They figured they would find alternative energy sources. That didn't happen. The new government is very pro oil and gas. Obviously, you have to do it in a safe manner, but they've been so backed up and delayed with bringing on new oil and gas into production that the prices skyrocketed, and they're having rolling blackouts in New Zealand from the lack of this investment. And so they understand that they need it. All of the wells and land claims that are owned by New Zealand Energy are grandfathered, so no one can take them away. And the government's almost willing to start paying for you to drill oil and gas wells because they need it so badly. So it's a good niche market. The price of gas is extremely high. You're getting your Brent crude prices for oil. You're about a $5 discount to Brent, which is significant. And it's just everything goes to market. And so it's a good business model. It's a very safe jurisdiction. We were just on site recently. We saw about 6 different sites. You go through rolling hills and sheep and cattle, and then there's an oil rig producing, right? So it's really unique to see. And these wells tend to come on very high. They do tend to decline because the reservoirs are smaller, but drilling additional wells is quite inexpensive. So following this transaction, if we were to do a new oil well, we could drill it off a current New Zealand existing pad, and these new wells would cost about 3.5 million Canadian, which is quite cheap considering on average they tend to come on at about 1,000 barrels a day, flush production.
Really interesting. And I guess for Monumental, does this represent a shift away from the lithium assets you had in South America, in Chile, or is there going to be a dual pursuit of both projects simultaneously?
Yeah, so you know what? I mean, I had a company called Advantage Lithium that was bought out by Orocobre years ago, and I've always loved lithium brine. And trying to buy an asset in Argentina years ago was just too expensive. So you went to Chile. We partnered with Lithium Chile. We got a very high-grade salar in Chile with our partner Lithium Chile. And moving it forward was difficult. The grades are there. There's a lot of cesium on the property also, but we simply just couldn't move it forward. And as much as I love the lithium space, the lithium brine space specifically, it's the most economic form of lithium, it was difficult, and we had cash, and our shareholders said, what do we do to shift? What can we invest in? What can we do? So we invested in New Zealand Energy, and now we're doing a deal with them for a royalty. We still have that salar. We've moved all the payments out about a year. So when lithium does rebound, we will go back into that salar and get our exploration program done. And it's been frustrating, but this is why we changed the name from Monumental Minerals to Monumental Energy, because it covers a scope of things: oil, gas, lithium, and liquids. We want to do anything that can create value for our shareholders, and our shareholders, from what I've talked to, said, listen, whatever you do, if you're going to generate revenue and you can use that revenue down the line to fund this great salar, we like your business plan, keep doing what you're doing. And that's what we're doing.
Interesting. And I guess when you were looking at having that optionality and bringing revenue in to potentially fund solar down the line, what was it that brought you specifically into oil as opposed to other commodities? What's your investment thesis, I guess, for the moment?
You know what? New Zealand Energy Corp and Tag Oil were two of my biggest wins back in 2010, 11, and 12. Obviously, the oil price changed, the stocks came off, but they were tremendous wins. The revenue models are huge over there. It's a safe jurisdiction, and it just seemed, as one of the largest shareholders in New Zealand Energy, made sense to do a deal with them. And, it takes 10 or 15 years to put an asset into production. That's mining. And for this, we can get a workover done in 3 weeks and have revenue. And even if you had to drill a new well, it's 6 weeks, 2 months. So much quicker, much more revenue right away. And it's less risky. I mean, you're raising millions of dollars for mining companies to do exploration. And for that same amount of money, I can put something back into production or drill a well that will have near-term production. And your flush production will pay you back in a very short period of time. And I've seen this with Tag Oil. I've seen this with New Zealand Energy back in the day. And I think we can do it again now. And for our small market cap, generate significant revenue in compared to our market cap, and then grow that over the years.
Great. And you mentioned that you're a shareholder in New Zealand Energy. I understand you're a significant shareholder in Monumental. walk us through maybe what's the significance in the exploration space for insider holding? What's the importance as it relates to retail investment? And I guess what attracted you to invest so much of your own money into Monumental Energy?
If you look at my insider filings, I haven't bought a lot lately. I can't because we've been blacked out for months now getting this deal done. But I spent a ton of money buying stock. I'm one of the largest shareholders. I think I am the single largest shareholder. The largest shareholder is Lithium Chile, but that was stock issued to them for the Salar. So, their cost base is low. It's obviously an emotional thing for me watching the share price go down over the years. I'm so invested in my company. Obviously, I promote what I invest in, and I love what I do. And it's been difficult. But I think this shift into oil will be a good shift for us. I think when a lot of CEOs or anyone in the company says you should buy shares and they don't own shares, well, why would I buy shares if someone else doesn't own any stock trying to promote, right? And so I put my money where the mouth is. It's been frustrating, but I think we have a good deal now, and I think the market will appreciate it. And going forward, I look forward to what 2025 has to come. It's been a tough 2024, delays. Luckily, we have a very good shareholder base. We've raised some very good capital with some very good people. The last financing we did was with a firm called Ocean Wallet of London, tremendous firm, very smart people, very good capital. And they said, listen, we're here to let you do what you need to do. We're not here to bother you. Take your time, get a good deal done, and we'll support it. And I think that's what we have now. And so I think going into 2025, we're going to see a lot of upside. And if the lithium price comes back and we can move that Salar forward, that will generate tremendous value for Monumental as well. So we have two things: one, revenue, and if we can move things in Chile, that Salar is worth a lot of money.
Fantastic. And I guess, Max, just to wrap up here, for investors who might be looking at other exploration stories, in your view, what stands out about Monumental, and why is now particularly an interesting time for people to get involved?
Well, I mean, the stock's near lows, obviously due to delays. So I think it's a good entry point. I thought it was a good entry point at 4 times the price, but that's me. We will have this revenue coming in Q1 of 2025. If lithium prices do come back, and I think they will, they always have. If you look at cycles of 2012, 2014, 16, 2020, they should. And so I think we have 2 very good assets, one for immediate revenue, and on the lithium side, our grades are 1,200 milligrams per liter. We have very good quality brine. We've done tests. And so I think the market should take a look at us. And you look at a lot of lithium companies in the pegmatite space in Canada, and a lot of these promotes were ran to $1 and now they're 5 cents and have no hope of raising any money, right? And our trading window has been, I think the last 2 financings were 17.5 cents. We're about 4.5 cents to 6 cents. We were 10 cents in the summer. It's a range, but we have the ability to raise capital. We have very good shareholders, and I think getting into this oil royalty agreement now was the right move to make with the cash on hand. We don't need to raise money to do this, and our payback is 75% first. So we're getting that money that we're putting in pretty quickly, and then we're getting a good revenue.
Fantastic. Well, Max, congratulations on getting this deal over the line. Certainly sounds like an exciting new chapter for Monumental Energy. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time.